a brand new feature added to Hearts of Iron 4, and it is the MIO. Now you get to select a bunch of them and varied bonuses, but with an added sprinkle, you could improve these MIOs further by gaining XP and also gaining traits. However, this new feature has loads of problems, and I'm going to basically shout out the devs of Hoi, maybe even shout you guys out for your input as well, and see if we can make the MIO system more refined and better. You know, the big joke of this is probably Paradox already know these problems, and they're already probably kind of working on a secret patch behind the scenes to make this feature more fleshed out. But I think I'd give you my input, and we'll see, look into the crystal ball in the future and look back and see if these magical things that are on my dream list actually comes true. It's less about criticizing what MIOs are and what they do, and it's more about making them more in synergy with the game mechanics and making it easy to you. First thing is first. There is nothing more annoying in Hoi than having to constantly refit. And one of the things you do have to do quite frequently, particularly with ships, in this case Meat version 4, is it wants me to upgrade this MIO. I haven't got an option to actually upgrade it right this second, but what we could do is cheat that in. But what it's basically saying is this is an out-of-date version, and there is a MIO improvement that can be added on with this little arrow that will give some extra stats for this said vehicle. I suppose we can actually illustrate this by finding the model itself. Oh, here it is. It's this one. So this one basically has a MIO improvement. As you can see, the production cost is exactly the same. So that tells me none of the modules in the ship is the same. The only real tangible difference is that the MIO is improving it behind the scenes. And if we go into it and click the button here, Spy 5 XP, what it's doing is it's just decreasing incoming torpedo critical chance by 5%. Man, that's like a mouthful, isn't it? Incoming torpedo critical chance 5%. And that's just one of the traits for the MIO. Here lies the problem. Having to change this whilst producing a ship is an absolute nightmare. Making ships in Hoi 4 is a headache to begin with, but having to constantly go back, modify ships, improve the production lines, back and forth, tug of war, or like a boomerang spinning around in their heads, is hard. And it makes the game more frustrating. So here's my proposed fix, okay? Let's just presume this model is still a model that we're producing. Here it is. So the Meat version 4. My suggestion, other than having to click it, click the ship, click the improvement, click save, then having to produce a brand new one with the new improvement, which is a total of 5 or 6 clicks. That's super inefficient. My advice is, why not just make this button here, this arrow, clickable to automatically upgrade the ship to the latest version, and just add an A or a B or a C on the end of it, but then at one extra letter, than having to constantly go back and forth and click several times. It comes down to like the amount of clicks that you get out of it. For a bonus as insignificant as this one, it isn't worth 6 clicks. It isn't worth your time. And I think sometimes people have issues with MIOs because of the said reason that you just constantly have to bounce back and forth, production, battle, and you get lost a little bit in the production screen. Hoi 4 is about war. Sure, it's about logistics too. I just thought it'd make a more refined system if you just clicked it once, boom, upgraded it, added an A or a B on the end of it, and it automatically improved it. Wouldn't that be a lot more convenient than having to constantly have to click 6 times to improve it? This now lies onto a second issue. So issue number 2. Upgrading ships is a massive pain in the ass. So if I was to do what I just talked about just then, improve the ship and develop it, it literally creates a brand new variant. So this one doesn't get updated to the latest version, even though it's the same production cost, but this new version does not get improved in the production line. Once again, if you want to incentivize ships and make the production methods more streamlined, why can't I just update the new MIO improvement within the production line? Surely if it's such a small refined change, like a different ammunition or a very small tweak to the production method of the ship, why not just give it me for free and allow me to continue making the same ship in the same amount of time with that new MIO method? Now, I'll admit this is kind of unique for ships because ships do take a very long time to build. It's one of the main reasons why ship play is disincentivized in Hoi, because a lot of the time it requires a lot of knowledge of how naval game works, and also requires a mass amount of clicks and research specifically for ships. So why not as an option 2, just let me have free refits automatically with MIO bonuses that don't need to produce a brand new ship? Because what we've got going on now, one of the massive issues too, is let's say this ship, this spotter ship. If I sign this onto auto upgrade like I have, if I get a new engine, or if I get a new light gun, or if I get a new fire control, in those instances, it will upgrade the ship. But get this, with the MIO improvements as well, this ship on average is having about 15 new iterations every single year, especially in the early game. And it's just too excessive and having to bounce back and forth. So I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Let me improve ships with MIO bonuses for free, and let me do it with existing ships that are already being produced. There's no reason I have to make the whole brand new ship all over again just for something that doesn't even have an extra production cost of any kind. Look, the production cost is the same. 7098, 7098, 7098. Apparently 3 different ships with the exact same production cost, but for some reason we have to make them brand new from the very beginning. Or even get it this, why don't give me a very, very small 1% production penalty for having to refit a ship that's on the fly. So 1% of 7,000, what's that? 70, isn't it? 70 production cost, which is a very small token amount. To be fair, 70 is actually still quite high for 1%, actually. Maybe 0.5%, whatever. But regardless, just make the process more streamlined, and maybe you'll incentivize naval play, which is kind of useful. Next up, this is a biggie. This is huge. Once a MIO reaches level 6, see this level 7 battle line ship, you have the option to select a policy. And I'll be honest with you, if you're laying in your chair like now, scratching your head, you're thinking, what the hell is this? I've never even heard this before. Yeah, a lot of people haven't, and this is the problem. When you get to a level 6 and you can assign a policy for a MIO, you should get a pop-up at the top of the screen. These bonuses are mega strong. They only cost 25 political power, so they're practically free anyway. It costs more political power to assign a medal onto a major general than it does to assign a policy. That's how unbelievably cheap they are. So that right now, if I want to assign a medal onto this divisional commander, it's going to cost me 30 political power. So it's cheaper to assign a policy that potentially can have more impact overall on your armed forces than it is to assign a medal onto a general. How insane is that? Anyway, policies. Some of the policies are mad OP, and you can only assign them when you get a level 6 MIO, which in most fairness, it's kind of difficult to get that to a level 6 before 1939. It's a bit of a reach, but it is possible. It is doable. And for instance, bonuses like this, 10% production cost for ships, is so colossally huge. It should not be ignored. So my advice is, Paradox, come on, sort this out, get this fixed. We need to know about policies, and it needs to be a notification at the top of the screen. Here's my number 4, and this is a little bit controversial because this does fundamentally change the way the game mechanics work. So, when you spend experience, you always need that experience to spend it. You got £5, you need to be able to, sorry, if something costs £5, you need to have a £5 note to purchase it. Yep, I mean, that makes sense, right? However, with MIOs, you tend to find yourself in a situation where you don't have the XP available. So what I'm actually suggesting is that MIO upgrades, when assigned to something, should be free. Now, they should still cost experience, but you shouldn't ever be restricted on being able to spend it. And that probably, you're still scratching your head right now. You're probably so confused. So I've reduced my XP down to 0 for Navy XP. And if I want to upgrade this ship, meet version 4, I can't do it. No experience points to spend. No XP points. Here's my simple suggestion. Allow you to spend it anyway. And it basically puts you into a minus number. And you're probably thinking, well, that defeats the purposes of XP, right? No, it doesn't. Because what now it allows me to do is always allows me to do refits and new versions of ships. But then I can basically pay the cost in advance. I can basically do it as a loan. And the reason why this is a big deal is you tend to find in the early part of the game, playing as the Allies, when you've got no opportunity to gain XP other than from generals and from doing a little bit of naval exercising, you tend to find yourself in a situation where you can't use your MIO improvements and upgrade them. And it tends to find that they all kind of back up, and it tends to cost a lot of money to upgrade with your MIOs. So my advice is just allow me to go into a deficit a minus amount of army XP to later on basically use it as a loan for later on. I mean, this won't change the fundamentals of doctrines. It won't change the fundamentals of actually changing your planes, for instance, by adding modules on, for instance. Everything else will still cost XP, and you basically need to be in the positive for that. But there's just the one exception is for MIOs. So you're in a situation where you can basically do all your MIO improvements and make the iterations and changes, but you can pay it forward another day. I'll admit, the more I say this out loud, the more I feel less connected to this idea. But it is frustrating sometimes, particularly me. There's a little bit OCD sometimes where I'm playing as the UK and I want to improve a plane or something, but I have no XP for it. So I'll kind of want to do it then. To be fair, the most min-maxy thing to do with planes, the most min-maxy thing to do is only to use the MIO improvements when you've got multiple. In this case, look, I've got 1, 2, I've got the 2, actually just the 2. But I suppose there's also some base ones as well you gain specifically from the MIO itself. So it always costs you 5 XP regardless. So if let's say you were to max this MIO out, so MIO add funds, you can basically max it out. And right now this is a level 5, so we can do upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. Do some more. Upgrade. So right now we've got more improvements, but get this, look. It still cost me 5 experience, and look at all the bonuses you get. So it is kind of more cost effective as a strategy to try and add them all on in one go. Later on you are. But however, the bonuses somehow are really effective, so it's kind of not worth it as much as it would usually be. Yeah, you know what? As I say this one out loud, I feel less connected to it than I ever have before. I just want it to be a system that I want to take advantage of a new game mechanic, but I don't want to be in a situation where I'm kind of like left out in the cold because I can't afford it. One final nugget. MIOs are excessive when you get this pop-up at the top of the screen. This is very excessive. Do you know the easy fix to this is you assign them as a queue. If you hold down shift, you can basically queue them up. Now it will always select the ones that are in gray first and then skip all the ones that you can't go for. So for instance, if I queue these ones at the bottom first, it'll never select them unless I select the top ones. You can see what order to go for them. It will skip them if they're not applicable and you can't go for them. But I think it might return back to them if you do get them later on. I'm not sure. And the easiest way of navigating this is to assign them all and then click it away and forget about it. And that way we'll auto upgrade. And you'll only really know about the upgrades when you look at your production queue and you see the little arrow here. But once again, as I said to you, whether it comes down to ships or if it comes down to planes, my advice is give me the option to click the button here for the up arrow, to just click it within this menu and then it auto upgrades. Therefore, I don't have to go through the menu and click 5 different times. A few people have suggested savable loadable templates as well. I say like a lot of people kind of ignore MIOs because they find them kind of frustrating, having to constantly go back and forth, having to assign new stuff. But I'll admit, some of these bonuses are actually awesome. Like 20% production output for screening ships. That is immensely OP for Italy. So it's like too good to even ignore. Anyway, MIOs. Is there any way you could improve them? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe for all that juiciness. I'll see you guys next time. If you want another video, give this one a click. BB.